Doug Ford being Doug Ford. So let's go with something a little bit lighter than what we've been talking about. He's pulling the old look inside yourself, Rosemary, but to young people right now. He apparently has a direct line with Mark Carney, and Mark Carney is just dumping low-skilled temporary foreign workers into the Canadian economy and just saying sorry about your luck, young people. And Doug Ford has said, if you're struggling to find employment in Ontario, well, perhaps the problem is you and not the immutable law of supply and demand. And he says that they aren't looking hard enough, even as Statistics Canada reports a surge in joblessness across the province. And he said this before the Ontario Region Board of Trade breakfast. Well, that's why he said it. These are the CFIB types who want all the low-skilled, low-paid workers to just take up all the jobs down at the Wendy's and the Tim Hortons. Well, I don't know if Wendy's uses them, but definitely Boston Pizza and the Tim Hortons. I'll go to David on this.
Look, I think the underlying problem, I think the comments that Premier Ford's making and that and a lot of what Mark Carney's talking about right now, the problem with it is these are second order conversations. The first order problem is that we have an economy that has the lowest GDP in of all the advanced economies. It has the worst performance, except for a small city state, of the top 40 economies in the world over 10 years. It's got the lowest GDP per capita in the G7, the OECD. We're on track to be the worst performer. The combination of massive federal bureaucratic growth, where it's 75% more expensive than it used to be, 40% larger, and all of the outcomes of government bureaucracy have actually, over that period of massive expansion and bureaucratic obesity, have actually declined in outcomes, right? You have at the same time, and that's a GDP killer, anytime you borrow money and you take that borrowed money, which you have to pay back with interest, and you use it to create a perpetual government position, you now have structurally reset the economy in a way that you can't get out of. And so we've got an overtaxed economy, an overborrowed economy, an economy that then, in order to make up for that gap with their green policies, have made it very hard for people to come in and hire. And so what you've got now is you've got a government that, instead of creating the conditions for hiring, which are normal, which is what we reversed in Alberta by cutting the corporate tax rate, which is why we have growth in the economy and why we have growth in jobs. They've created an economy where there's no viral growth anymore. The conditions for growing are gone. And here's a fun fact about Alberta. Back when we cut the corporate tax from 12 to 8, the left threw up their hands saying, that's what you guys do. We've grown the corporate tax revenues under 12. The corporate tax revenues are around 4 billion. At 8%, third lower, the corporate tax revenues are over 7 billion. How did that happen? Because when you cut taxes, corporations come in and start hiring. We've had the fastest job growth. Last year, Alberta was 80% of all the private sector hiring in the entire country. Okay. And so what Mark Carney has is the conditions for private capital coming in and creating new businesses, growing those businesses and hiring people aren't there. And when you don't have that oxygen in the system, because you've created all these rules, regulations, and taxes that make it impossible for people to want to put risk capital to work, then what you end up with is this sad state where the Liberals, trying to make up for their dead economy, are trying to put this like little sugar shot of low-cost foreign employees that come in this temporary foreign work program. It's not going to work. It's one of the reasons this economy is going to fall apart. The only way out is cutting taxes and doing things the Liberals are incapable of doing, which is why I think Mark Carney's days are numbered.
From your lips to God's ears. Yeah, he went on to say that, I assure you, if you look hard enough, it may be in fast food or something else, but you'll find a job. I'm not sure that's true. I saw the lineups for the CNE job fair, and they were like enormous, and those were for temporary short-term jobs. I'll go to Jeremy. You seem like a much younger person than me. And I think you probably have a closer thumb on the pulse of this than I do. It is bad out there for young people. Like my son has got a career. He's not an entry level worker anymore. But I think it's tough out there for the young people to get a job anywhere. But I think extra bad in Ontario.
So I'm actually from Ontario originally.
Oh, then you know.
As a young man who's from Ontario, it's brutal out there.
Yeah,
You know, just speaking from experiences of being someone who graduated recently, knowing people who are currently in the job market, even friends from journalism school who are out there looking for jobs getting into the media industry, and CBC's out there hiring temporary foreign workers. You
right.
know, it is rough. And I think Doug Ford saying all you need to do is look harder for a job isn't quite talking to the people who are sending out 300, 400 applications and not getting a single email back. There is a real problem. And when almost equivalent numbers of Canadians are losing their jobs as we hire temporary foreign workers last year, it just doesn't make sense. It's companies wanting to take advantage of weak policy to then take advantage of the workers that they're getting from abroad, make them work crazy hours, and treat them as if they are less than a Canadian worker. People are paying quote unquote $36 an hour to temporary foreign workers to manage a Subway or a Baskin Robbins or a Starbucks. But
Yeah.
are those people really getting paid $36 an hour and being treated the same as a Canadian worker, or are they getting taken advantage of? And I'm actually currently working on looking into some of those policies and some of those practices and some of those businesses. Michelle Rempel Garner has had an excellent Twitter series where she goes
Mhm.
over and goes through businesses that are using temporary foreign workers and paying them egregious sums. And I've been looking through the Canada Jobs database for positions that are available for temporary foreign workers. And I'm seeing positions that are getting paid $300,000 a year to be a therapist or a psychiatrist that are getting offered to temporary foreign workers. It seems like young Canadians are being, as young people would say, gatekept from entering the job market.
Yeah.
Because what I thought Doug Ford was in that moment was just so patronizing, just so like what we didn't hear from Doug Ford was any solutions or what he was going to do to tackle this issue, right? Like he didn't go ahead and say, "You know what? That's a really great point. We're going to establish a youth workforce task force to try and unpick this for the young people of Ontario." He didn't say that because Doug Ford is at simultaneously at the same time dealing with mass layoffs in his steel and aluminum sectors because of his antagonistic, terrible take on the American tariff wars or trade dispute with America. But no, what a what a buffoony thing to say. Like Doug Ford remains the Helen Keller of political tone deafness in Canada
Yeah.
for the things he says off the cuff, and he shouldn't be allowed near a podium. As
You
far
know,
as
all he's got going for him is stage presence. Even if it's bad, he's like a bad karaoke singer where you just want to watch, but everything that's happening is terrible and it's just an abuse of your senses. Every time I listen to him, that's what I get. But I just pulled up the data out of the corner of my eye from our friends at Juno, who said that Ford's remarks came days after Statistics Canada reported Ontario had lost 26,000 jobs in August, the most of any province. I guess those people just aren't looking hard enough either. Ontario's unemployment rate dipped to 7.7% in August from 7.9%, not due to job growth, but due to something that David pointed out earlier. People are just giving up. They're just losing hope. And then youth unemployment in Ontario rose to 16.5% in August from 16% in July, significantly higher than the national youth rate at 14.5%. This is how bad it's gotten, though. In July 2022, the province's youth jobless rate was 10.1%. I guess they're just not looking hard enough.
Just got to
Anyway,
try harder. Look within yourselves, kids.
look within yourself, Rosemary.